Hey, what it do, what it is, what it was. This is your boy Pocho, one of the Pocho Live podcast. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and support everyone in the field. Today we got my brother coming out of Stockton, California. Salute to my brother Ben.Amador. What's up, brother? Thank you for coming to the little podcast, bro. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
So, real quick, bro, I always start everybody off a little bit of who are you, what do you do, and where are you from?
My name is Ben.Amador from Stockton, California. And right now, I'm the Northern California organizer for Time Done under Californians for Safety and Justice. And what we do is that we educate and empower formerly incarcerated and system impacted people to basically change laws through state policy and budget change.
Absolutely. And before we get into like what's currently going on, if we could run it back a little bit and tell me a little bit about how you grew up. How does the inside of your house look in terms of like siblings, family? Was your dad, your mom there? Whatever you'd like to share about your family life and growing up in your city and a little bit of your childhood before we get to kind of the teenage years.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Stockton, in East Stockton, and basically my educational background is that I've been struggling since preschool. You know what I mean? I've always been that ADHD kid that never knew what the hell was going on, and had failing grades, and as years progress, that's normally the snowball effect that we all get pulled into. As far as the kids that are struggling in school, they ultimately get pushed to the side and left behind, right? And then we band together and we develop bad habits, and we go down self-destructive paths, right? And that's ultimately what happened with me, and what happens to a lot of people in our community, a lot of people in our communities that ultimately end up in jails and prisons, right? And as I was going through elementary, middle school, and high school, struggling with my classes, struggling with my grades, I ultimately dropped out of high school, got plugged in with the fellas in the neighborhood, and ended up in state prison at 18 for 10 years and 2 strikes and gang registration.
Dang. And so before we get to the kind of the prison and or just some of the experiences of that stuff, not the prison actually, but could you just tell us a little bit about what was going on in Stockton and give a little, like, say, just, and also just to give a, like a little bit of like, because if you've never been to Stockton, you kind of have to be there to know about it, So if you just break down a little bit about Stockton and your environment in that period, because I think the environment we were growing up in was a little bit unique for the times too. So anything you want to share about your area?
Yeah, well, I think it's basically like it's like every area is kind of the same, right? As far as you have the same hood drama, same hood politics for the most part, right? As far as the same issues, the same struggles in school. I mean, yeah, like the style swag that's a little bit different here and there, but ultimately, right, is that what one of the things that is different then that is now, I would say, is that there's more intervention programs, right? There's more intervention programs for the youth that are struggling. There's more opportunities in terms of funding for community programs, community organizations. And I remember when I was struggling in high school, they ultimately put me in what's called an opportunity class, right? Yeah. And then it's basically where they put all the kids that are fucking up, they're Adidas gang members that are getting into fights and stuff like that, and they give us like second grade materials. They have us come out on campus when everyone's already in class, and then they escort us off campus when everybody before everyone gets released to lunch, right? And if we have to go to the bathroom, we have to go to the bathroom with security guard escort, just like as if we were already in prison, right? And that's when I first really experienced the school to prison pipeline for myself, because I was sent to juvenile hall because I was at that time in the opportunity class. I was sent to juvenile hall because I got into an incident with the security guard that was escorting us to the bathrooms. Long story short, I was messing with my pencil, not really doing anything wrong with it. He came up to me, tried to take it from me. I said, "No, I'm not going to give you my pencil. Why would I give you my pencil?" And so then he basically 2-3 times my size, picked me up and then threw me against the wall. And then I put my foot up so that I wouldn't fly into the wall. And so I kind of pushed off the wall. He grabbed me and body slammed me. And then in order for the school, mind you, I'm like 90 pounds at this time, right? 100 pounds, right? And then so the school, in order to protect themselves from liability, they ultimately said that I tried to stab them. They sent me to juvenile hall for that when I was like 15, 16 years old, and yeah, I came home on probation, and yeah, man, it's been rocking and rolling after that.
Was everybody, like when I was growing up, bro? Like everybody older than me was getting locked up. Everyone was getting into it. It was all like there was drama. It was like a novela, you know what I mean? And so was because I remember Stockton, especially in the 90s. It was hotter, if anything, but of course, literally, physically, and in the streets, real hot out there. It still is. So how? Because people say that there's been times when Stockton has been said to be one of the worst places to grow up, you know, and in the streets, that's looked at as a good thing. But for the kids of Stockton, that's not necessarily a good thing. So I was just wondering, like, what do you think of what is it about Stockton? Because right now, also Stockton's blowing up in the music industry. They're really putting on, and I was just wondering, is there something in the water, or what is it about Stockton? You know,
I really don't know if there's something in the water. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of hood politics. There's a lot of kids that have access to guns, and whenever you're in an environment where you're young, hot-headed, full of testosterone, right, and you have access to guns with neighborhood drama, that's just a recipe for disaster, right? And then not only that, when you're listening to the music that reinforces that mindset and put you on that path of thinking, you know what I mean? It's only common sense where you're going to end up, right? But what I personally would like to see is that I would like to see people more positively encouraged, right, to better and educate themselves, right, to get into jobs, to graduate high school, and to pick themselves up out of poverty and struggle, and to become business owners, start their own business, and for the community ultimately to come together for the betterment and advancement of our people, not only behind the walls, but out here in the communities as well.
Facts. And when you hear Mudville, what does that mean?
When I hear Mudville, man, it's get it out the mud. It's grimy.
Shout out to Stockton. So they call Stockton Mudville, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's one name for Stockton.
Oh, for sure. The homie, he does a lot of content too. He asked, does our records get sealed when we finish our parole? I heard something about that. You know anything on that?
Yeah, there's what are we in right now? 2024. So in 2022, the criminal justice reform organization that I work for passed groundbreaking expungement legislation called SB 731, which went into effect January 1, 2023, which expanded access to expungement to individuals with felony prison cases, which is groundbreaking, the strongest expungement law in the country. Before it was limited, right, to non-serious offenses, and prison, for the most part, prison cases were excluded from that. But now, as a result of SB 731, you could contact your public defender's office and ask for their assistance in expunging your record. And just because it was a serious or violent offense that resulted in prison time, that's no longer going to exclude you. And another piece of legislation that we passed in the same year, I believe, now eliminates unpaid fines and restitution as a barrier to getting your record expunged. So one qualification, right? One of the qualifications for expunging your record is to already served your prison sentence, discharged probation and parole for 2 years without any new or pending cases, and regardless of if you owe restitution or not, you qualify for expungement. Now, the caveat with that is that when it comes to serious felony offenses that resulted in state prison time, they don't have to grant you expungement, but they now have the option to, whereas before they didn't. But in many cases, it's for the most part, you're for the most part likely to get granted. But another part I would add is that for about the past 8 years, we've been passing laws to expand access to expungement in California, right? And one of those first policies was Prop 47 that reduced certain felonies to misdemeanors, and then made those offenses expungible, right? And then it was SB 1076 expanded that, and then here we are today with SB 731 that now includes serious prison cases in that as well. And I say all that to say that we have been working to expand access in terms of which offenses qualify for expungement, whereas before they didn't really. For the most part, you had to jump through a lot of hoops and damn near know the governor in order to get your record expunged. But now that we've expanded access to include virtually everyone except for 290 sex offenses, then the battle moving forward is to strengthen expungement laws, right? As far as to go deeper in sealing your records from them being essentially pulled up and used against you to discriminate against you, against jobs, housing, and another goal is to restore rights for people convicted of felonies, right? Because one of the biggest problems with felony convictions is that after you receive a felony on your record, you serve your time, you discharge probation and parole, you're ready to move on with your life, you still have nationwide 44,000 collateral consequences, which are state and federal regulatory restrictions that are placed on you for the rest of your life simply for having a felony record. And one of those restrictions is that you lose your Second Amendment firearms right. And all of these together ultimately, if I'm using the right word, relegate you down to second-class citizenship level, because you don't have full citizenship rights. You have a bunch of statutes against you, and even when you try to better yourself and move on with your life in a positive way, your record will be pulled up and used against you, right? With a multi-billion-dollar background check industry that profits off feeding landlords and employers with the worst mistakes of your life for the sole purpose of discriminating against you for positive opportunities. And that's what we're fighting for, or that's what we're fighting against.
Yeah, bro. And I feel like those are the things that also can just like make you lose hope. And like I feel like gangs and the streets is just a language of loss of hope. So it's just like another, way of bringing us back into into their control and stuff. So it's just, especially been really hard just recently, just I bet you, people going through prison through the pandemic and all that stuff has been insane. But everybody check out, if you get Google SB 731, right? That's the name of it?
Yeah, SB 731.
Yeah, so if y'all want to I always tell everybody, you can get information from us, but always do your own, your own background. Shout out to Farmedo, and Farmedo asked, assault with a deadly weapon qualify for expungement?
Yes. Basically, virtually anything outside of 290 sex offenses qualify for expungement. When the SB 731 expungement law went into effect in January 1, 2023, me and a handful of individuals from Stockton were the first group of people to have our records expunged under this new law, and we were in there with gun charges, armed robbery, gang enhancements, shootings, and we got our records expunged under the law that we pushed to pass.
Well, there you go. So you can thank the homies for that. These are the real homies striving, man. Shout out to Farmedo for the question. We're gonna mix it up with questions in your personal life, history. But Harriet Tony says, I got a question. When Raza YouTubers record your private conversations, is that considered an illegal wiretap in California? And it's okay if you don't know this.
I'm not sure. You'd have to consult an attorney about that.
Yeah, Harry, it's going a little deep, but good question though. You know what I mean? It's always a good question. Yep, everybody hit the like button. And then real quick, bro. So The reason, well, I'll give a little context. The reason why I've been, following your work for a minute, but the reason why I recently have finally tapped in to do an interview, I always want to wait till I'm really feeling it, because for me, they're real conversations that are going to last.
Mhm.
I really believe that we're making history right now, and so our descendants are going to be able to see what we did. But I recently, I just been getting into conflict with people online, and I feel like I'm the voice of reason. Like I'm trying to be the voice of reason, but I'm pushing a little too hard on people. And your energy around the work you do seems to like you really get things done in a positive fashion while keeping it real and being
Mhm.
respected by a lot of people that I respect, and just like in the music industry and in the street life, all that. So I just wanted to know more of, was it prison? Was it your home life? Where did you get the way that you carry yourself today? You're kind of, how have you built your personality to help your people, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, well, ultimately, I give credit where credit is due. Uh, as of today, I live a legal and positive life as a family man, but I am still a solid individual in good standings with my community, right? And I'm always going to honor and respect my roots and heritage and where I came from, and give credit where credit is due. And I give a lot of credibility to how I was brought up and raised in prison behind the walls with the fellas in there. They've always encouraged me throughout my time to better and educate myself, to strive for higher education, to conduct myself professionally, present myself respectably, and always and and always conduct myself professionally and respectfully.
And can I ask how old you are?
I'm currently 36.
36. So we're more or less around the same. I'm 41, so I'm a little bit older, but like, it's funny though. People think that you can't look up to people younger than you, bro. But I look up to you and what you're doing, bro. And I kind of got away from activism because, or whatever you want to call that, but because I felt like it became like I couldn't be myself in a lot of spaces, because like it's like you almost have to be perfect. Like, hey, how you doing? And it's like, I'm not perfect, bro. I'm still working through my things. Like, I'm 41 with gray hairs, bro, and I never talked about gangs ever in my history, but people started trying to tell my story, and then I started telling my story, and then I started. Ugh. So I look to people like you who like, for me, I'm still respected in my community and good standing, and I never went to prison, so it's not really, kind of like Mudville says, I never dropped out of something I never dropped into. I'm just a
Mhm.
street guy, but even in that sense, I still respect the rules and regulations that I grew up on, and I try to do my best. And so I want to check in with people like you. If anybody, you're the kind of people that we should be checking in with, because I want to. I have a voice, and I'm not afraid to use it, but I'm learning how to manage it. So I wanted to know, if did you always carry yourself like how we were taught to be a professional and a gentleman at all times, or did you have to struggle with that a little bit? Because my temper makes me struggle with that a little bit, and I'm acknowledging and working on it. But I wanted to know if you struggled with your voice at all, or did you kind of just have it from day one?
I've always been I've always been a humble and respectful individual, right? I've always had a relatively good control over my feelings and emotions, and I did have a father figure in my life. I did have a father, so I had that positive upbringing to fall back on, in terms of how to I most definitely have to give my father credit for raising me how to talk, speak, and carry myself as a man, right? And but when I went into prison, that was also reinforced by the fellas there, right? That carry themselves with very high standards with how we conduct, present, and interact with each other, right? And so that also fed into how I was raised in that respect, right? And but you know what, as far as for now, how I move right now, right, is simply with the understanding that not everything is for the internet, right? And not everything is for entertainment, right? I'll always have my personal opinion on certain issues, right? But there's a fine line between a personal opinion and a public opinion, right?
Mm.
Especially with the
Personal
and
opinion. Let's say it one more time. Personal opinion versus a public opinion. I like. I'm taking that one.
Yeah, exactly. Because, say, for example, me and you, we can have a very candid conversation off camera about certain subjects. But once the cameras turn on and we're on the internet, those are discussions between me and you as brothers, right? Not for the internet, for sensationalism and internet purposes, for people that are outside of that.
Exactly.
That don't connect, that don't relate, and essentially that just chime in to pump up drama for views and clicks and things like that. Because that's not what I'm about. That's not what I'm for. I'm not about. You have to be mindful. You have to be very mindful with what you say and how you say it, especially when you're talking about sensitive issues.
Man, I'm learning the hard way, but it's cool because I'm learning. I'm somebody that usually learns though, like pretty quickly. You know, I don't make too many mistakes back to back, but no, I appreciate that just because I have a father too, and I was raised right, but the streets kind of put a twist on that, and I did, and it's I was raised like that, you know, be a gentleman and professional, but also when I was raised also was the minute you don't get that back, you have the right to do anything you want, which I don't necessarily believe in now. But sometimes it's out in me, you know, that if they're not going to give you that back, you know, in the regular society, it's okay if they don't give it back. You know, it's what you give, how you stand, right? But me, I felt like if I don't get that same energy back once I'm a professional, which I know this is not good to do this, but because I'm taking it personal, and I'm kind of doing, it's like love on condition, you know. So it's like I expect, because I give people the high level of respect when I meet them, that they should offer that back. And if they don't, I start to take resentment, and sometimes it might come back on them. I might, you know, spit that back out because I was holding it in. And so I'm just working on that, you know. And I don't know if you had to work on those kind of things. They're like real deep, you know, inner emotional things that you got to work on as a man, you know. And it's just like, just like F it. I don't want to work on it. I want to blow up, and then you crash out, you know.
Yeah, I mean, everyone. I mean, we're all human, right? Everyone struggles with emotions, reactions, and things of that sort, right? But when it comes to dealing with how you say it, as I say, not everything's for the internet, right? And for me personally, right? Okay, let me step back and take it as myself, right? If I were to have a personal dispute with an individual, right, or one of my brothers, right, then I don't find it appropriate to address that individual online. I'm gonna call them offline. Like, hey, what's going on, bro? Let's meet in person. Let's chop game and see what's really going on, right? Man to man, eye to eye. Not to say that I'm gonna do that in a threatening way, but the conversation is usually different in person than it is over camera. And not only that, when we're talking about the internet, right, and internal confrontation with your loved ones, that's not something that I believe should be broadcasted to the world that would just take it and run with it for sensationalism. Because again, yeah, the issues that we have with amongst our loved ones isn't for entertainment purposes.
Yeah, and you know, and sometimes I get in conflict with people that I actually respect, and it gets me more in my feelings because I actually respect them, or I like their music, and you know, and I'm trying to give them a compliment, but maybe they might not want it, or this or that, or whatever the case may be, and so I'm just trying to struggle. What would you say if somebody say somebody said something about you on the internet, though? Would you address it? Since you know how they say, if they address me publicly, I'm gonna address them publicly. Would you address them publicly, or is it kind of like a case by case basis? Or would you ever address a conflict publicly?
I would address how would I say it? I would address a debate, a discussion publicly.
Yeah.
But then once that starts moving into a realm of a sensitive topic or of a more personal confrontation, then that's something that should be addressed offline.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. For sure. So running it back a little. Oh, wait, shout out to Mudville. He says Ben's well known in the city of Stockton for great work he does in the community. A true legend and role model. Salute Ben. Shout out Mudville Media. Everybody go check him out. Shout out to my boy ALG Entertainment. And then so I wanted to. Oh wait, hold on. What does Ben think about the possible change in the political landscape with being tougher on crime that ultimately will result in more brown and black vatos being incarcerated?
All right. I have a long answer for this.
That's what the podcast is for.
because this is because that's what's going on right now, right? And that's what I'm active. That's something that a lot of us are actively addressing. And over the past couple of years, there's been a mass misinformation campaign across social media from various news networks and sources that are misleading the public to believe that crime is out of control, things are going wild in the streets, and that Prop 47 and reform laws are the cause of it. Therefore, we have to revert back to tough on crime policies and repack prisons with non-serious offenders for the sake of saving our society from this out of control crime wave, and where crime is at a 50-year low.
Exactly.
Crime is at a 50-year low, and mostly everything that people think they believe about the legislative language of reform policies and of crime data surrounding that is false because what we see on social media, right, and what's being peddled. And ultimately, and then you ask why, right? Why would there be a misinformation campaign across social media that would try to bring back a tough on crime sentiment? Enter Prop 36, which is going to be voted on this November, which would inject another $26 billion into the California prison budget over the next 10 years and cut about $1 billion of community-based investments over the same 10 years and result in an increase of 65,000 more inmates in the California state prison system, all of which would be non-serious, non-violent offenders. And what is the misinformation I'm talking about? I'm talking about, say, for example, right over the past couple of years, right, all the things that we've seen on social media about crime, right? People, as a result of that, people believe that when people go into stores and shoplift, that the store employees cannot stop shoplifters because of Prop 47, when that is actually false. It is their own corporate policy that stops their own employees because of insurance reasons. It's cheaper for these corporations to let a shoplifter walk out with the item than to risk the liability of a lawsuit from the shoplifter or from their own employee getting hurt trying to stop the. And then on top of that, you'll have they say that the police cannot make arrests because of Prop 47, but that they use that as a reason for why they don't even respond to property crime anymore, because we can't do anything anyways because Prop 47, which is false. Under Prop 47, misdemeanor petty theft, even under the $950 felony threshold, is still a misdemeanor that carries 6 months in jail with a $1,000 fine, and is still very much an arrestable offense. So the fact that police say that they can't do anything about it because of a misdemeanor is false. And when you dive deeper into that and you see that the police arrest rate for property crimes across the state is actually 7%, then that begs the question of what's really falling short with accountability, right? Because what that means is that we're just talking about arrest. We're not talking about prosecution or charge sticking or incarceration or prison sentence, right? We're talking about only 7% of the time a property crime is reported does it lead to handcuffs being placed on somebody. So that means that 93% of the time of reported crime, police do absolutely nothing about it with regard to property crime. And so if you expand that to go beyond reported crime and go into the realm of all crime, right? Reported crime as well as unreported crime, that 7% arrest rate is a lot lower, right? And then to address what they say that we can't do anything about it because Prop 47 has essentially tied law enforcement's hands behind their back. There's absolutely nothing in Prop 47 that prevents or prohibits courts or law enforcement from arresting, prosecuting, or incarcerating individuals for petty theft or misdemeanor drug possession, which still, as a misdemeanor, carries 1 year in jail, right? And so the whole argument of Prop 47 is the cause for lawlessness is bullshit. And why would they do that? Is because in 2012, California lost a lawsuit of prison overcrowding, saying that basically California state prisons were packing more prisoners into their prisons than they could provide adequate medical treatment for, which means that with their population at about 180,000, on average, one inmate was dying per week from a preventable illness because they packed more inmates in their facilities than they could provide adequate medical care for, right? And so then they were ordered to either scale up their medical care capacity, which is a very expensive task to do for 180,000 people, or reduce the population to a more manageable rate, right? And then enter Prop 47. Because when you're thinking about how do you reduce an overcrowded prison population, who do you start with? You start with the people that have no business being in state prison in the first place, and that's people that are in there for petty theft and low-level drug possession that shouldn't even be in state prison, county jail at the most. But those are not state prison offenses.
That's crazy, dog. That's crazy. That's crazy. All this game, bro. I appreciate it. Ooh, I like this one though. Hey Ben, will you run for mayor of Stockton one day?
No, I won't. I won't run for a political office.
Can you?
I can. I could run for political office. We could run people with felony records. We could, as you can see, with Donald Trump, you can even run for president, right? You can run for president, Senate, Assembly, mayor, all of that, I believe, right? But the reason why I wouldn't do it is because, as we're seeing, it's becoming more and more accepted for the legal system to be weaponized in politics, right? And first and foremost, I have to think about securing my family, right? And so I'm not going to put myself in a situation to where they're going to try to bring up a bunch of charges, because, mind you, I have a felony record from when I was 18 years old. I have strikes. So these the criminal allegations that will roll off the typical individual that is in the political arena would most likely stick on an individual that has a felony record, right? And so that's kind of what deters me from that, is because I essentially don't want to go back to prison playing politics.
I never went, bro. I went to like juvenile hall and camp, and I just remember thinking, bro, like at a very young age, my boy, that and my homies didn't have fathers, and I had a father, right? I had a good family, so I had these like moments that I could get out of the situations I was in, really. But it was simple though, bro. I'm like, I was like, oh man, hell no, bro. These fools are way more madder than I am. I'm claustrophobic and I love girls. I'm not gonna stay up in here. So it never, once I started seeing what was happening, I couldn't even go that. So thank God. But running it back a little bit, anything you want to just speak about, kind of the kids that are facing, consequences about how they do their time, or just any. I know, because I don't want to talk about prison, but I would like to give any kind of tools or. And
I could talk about my
whatever you can do.
Prison experiences and things of that sort, right? But this is ultimately me personally, right? Where I draw the line, right, is that I believe that prison politics, right, as far as prisoner politics, are issues that should be addressed on the yard. Hood politics are issues that should be addressed in the hood, right? And then when we're coming on the internet and speaking on social media platforms, this is a place to be talking about legal and legitimate things, right? That aren't incriminating, right? In any form of capacity, right? And then, so any advice I would give an individual that is facing hard times, that's getting locked up and has a term ahead of them that they need to complete, is focus on bettering yourself, because that's ultimately what I did, right? As far as when I started my 10-year term when I was 18 years old, I realized that I didn't want that period of my life to be a waste of time, right? I didn't want to come out from that sentence, if I were to come out, because shit happens, right? But if I were to come out from that 10-year term, I wanted to have something to show for it, or in some sense be a better person. So I always worked on bettering myself physically and mentally, and I was always encouraged by the fellows around me, which was a very positive thing that I'll always be grateful for. I always read books where I can on law, politics, leadership, strategy, business, things of that sort, and those are topics that we encourage each other to study on and be abreast of, so that we can be more well-rounded individuals, right? And so that's my advice for anybody that is going through hard times or is currently locked up. Focus on doing you, minding your business. Don't get caught up in all the extra stuff on the yard. And you know what I mean? Do your time righteous, as solid as you can, and focus on bettering and educating yourself, so that when your time comes to come home and you will be prepared to take full advantage of your second chance and hit the ground running.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I just always like to add a little value anywhere I can, because you never know. Like, a lot of people are watching us and they're doing good, but there's some people that are down and out. And if there's anything, that we can help them with, the homeboy ALG Entertainment asks, what's the difference between AB law and prop law? Again, if you know.
Yeah, when there's so those are two ways to pass laws in California, right? One way is to pass laws through the voters, right? As far as to have the voters vote on new laws, like they're gonna do in November. And also, there's laws that are being passed every year through the California state legislatures, right? Through the Assembly and through the Senate. And so before a law becomes a law, it's a bill, right? And when that bill is introduced in the Assembly, it's called AB. Let's say, for example, 102, right? They'll assign a number to it. So if a bill is introduced into the Assembly, it will be called AB 102. If that same bill were to coincidentally be introduced into the Senate, it would be called SB 102, Senate Bill 102. So AB, Assembly bill or Senate bill, just means which section of the House it was introduced in, right? And then proposition, that is that I believe that's more of a ballot measure that will be voted on.
Absolutely. Soundly South Bay says, what's the homie talking about, bro? The police could arrest people, but the prosecutor is going to be the one to let them out. So what's the point of arresting people? I don't know.
So no, yeah, I'll answer that. So what do you mean, right? As far as the prosecutor is going to let them out anyways, right? Should people do life in prison for petty theft like they did in the 90s when they introduced the 3 strikes law and people were being sentenced to 25 to life for shoplifting the candy bar? You know what I mean? Or should the sentence fit the crime, right? Under Prop 47, misdemeanor petty theft carries 6 months in jail, right? And sitting in a concrete cell the size of your bathroom for 6 months is hardly a lenient sentence, right? So they have, under existing law with Prop 47, they have the option to do that, right? And so right now, I volunteer with a community-based organization called Amelia Ann Adams Whole Life Center in Stockton, and we do case management work and participatory defense, court advocacy for individuals fighting cases in the court system, right? And what that looks like is, say, for example, an individual gets arrested for petty theft, right? And then they go to their first court hearing. The court is going to OR them and release them and allow them to fight their case from outside, right? Because there's more serious offenses that they need bed space for in the county jail, right? Unless you want to pay another like $20 billion in taxes to build more jails to just keep locking up more and more and more people, right? So the court ORs people for these low-level, non-serious offenses so they can fight them from outside. And with my organization, we then take them in as clients, assign them as a case manager, to get them into jobs, get them into counseling, get them help them with housing assistance, essentially help them pull their lives together and get on their feet, so that it's not necessary for them to believe that they have to shoplift or do these types of things, right? And so me, myself, I would take this person's file. We create a social biopack of all the positive things that the individual is doing and how they're bettering themselves and pulling their lives together. And I go with them to their to meet with their public defender or their defense attorney, and then we help them with the mitigation process of negotiating a plea deal with a prosecutor, and we ultimately tell them, hey, this individual was arrested for this misdemeanor or this felony offense, but since then we have been working with them at our community-based organization, and we have been connecting him with services and resources, getting him on his feet, helping him better his life. Since then, he now has a job. He is now in stable housing. If he has a drug problem, if he has a drug issue, he is now undergoing drug treatment. Therefore, this individual is not only amenable to rehabilitation, he is already self-rehabilitating himself. So there's no need to max him out, throw the book at him, and lock him up, because he's not a threat to society, and he is ultimately the outcome that we want the justice system to achieve is already being achieved, right? He learned from his mistake, he learned his lesson, and he's on a better path in a better direction in life, right? And so that's the problem that we have right now, right? Because I speak with DAs and prosecutors about criminal justice reform issues, right? And I ask them candidly, because they won't honestly admit this on camera for political reasons, but I'll ask them, what's really the problem? Is it Prop 47? Is Prop 47 fucking everything up? Or is there something else, another underlining issue, right? And one of the things that they say, and this is coming from the prosecutors and district attorneys themselves, is that ultimately that police don't even give restorative justice a chance, so they don't even arrest people in the first place to feed them in the court system, to then have them handed off to the community-based organizations to connect them with the services and resources that can get them together on their feet and break the cycle of poverty and crimes in our communities. And police themselves will openly admit that they don't prioritize property crime or non-serious offenses, which means they don't do shit about it. Right. Yeah. And then they go back and they blame Prop 47 for the reason why they can't do anything, when I've already outlined earlier that there's nothing in Prop 47 that stops them. They just believe that if they can't send people to state prison for these petty offenses, there's no point of even trying to do anything in the first place. And that's where we're at right now, with zero enforcement, because they choose not to.
Yeah. And what did you say? I think also like it comes out here, says, bro, homie tried to say the crime is not up, but on the block you can watch the homeless people breaking into cars, and
that's anecdotal. That's anecdotal evidence that's not reflective of the overall crime trends, right? Because when I'm talking about crime, I'm not talking about I've seen this incident here, I've seen that incident there, or I've seen a couple posts on social media. I'm referring to the DOJ, Department of Justice database, that's getting their data and reports directly from police departments across California. And so what that shows is that since the 90s, the crime rate has been in a steady and continuous decline all the way up until 2020, when it slightly upticked at that point. But what happened in 2020? There wasn't a criminal justice reform law that was passed that steadily changed the crime trajectory. We had COVID. We had lockdown. We had hyperinflation. We had the cost of living essentially doubling and tripling. The price of a home doubled for the same shopping cart of goods at Costco a couple of years ago cost you $400 and now cost you about $1,200, right? Well, there's serious economic issues that are going on, right? So then since then, crime has slightly upticked, right? But it's upticked to pre-lockdown levels, which is still historic lows. So they take that slight uptick from after the lockdown was lifted and we had this economic crisis loom over us. Mm-hmm. And they say that crime is out of control because it upticked slightly to pre-pandemic levels, which was still historic lows. So crime's not out of control. And I'm glad you brought up the car break-ins, right? Because that's something that we see on across social media, right? We'll see these sensationalized posts where they'll say, blame Prop 47 for these smash and grabs and the bipping that's going on, all these people running into stores, stealing crazy stuff, knocking out the security guard, breaking glass, going in there like 10, 20 deep, blame Prop 47 for the cars they're getting broken into in Oakland and Frisco. The funny part about that is that those are all felony burglary cases that carry 3 to 4 years in prison, that have absolutely nothing to do with Prop 47, that covers misdemeanor petty theft. So when police say they can't do anything because Prop 47, they're flat out lying, because those are already felony offenses that carry prison time.
Bro, man, I'm about to, man, this is a game right here. I appreciate it. Hey, the homie said, how can Stockton get Homeboy Industries program in Stockton? Do you have to get it voted in? I don't know if you know, but I worked at Homeboy Industries for 3 years. I was a staff photographer, social media manager. And while I was working there as a professional, bro, I had to break it down and get sober. And I lived with Southsiders for 6 months in El Monte and in the rehab for 3 months. And then extra 6 more months. So a whole year and a half almost of deep rehab, bro, with Southsiders. It affected me because they could have, I don't want to get into all the things, but I have a lot of tattoos that reflect that I'm from Northern California, basically. They could have done me dirty, bro. And every day I spent a year and a half with these dudes getting sober. And not once was I ever harmed. I was taken into their homes, fed. And I didn't experience prison, where I met a lot of my family members and homeboys that said that they got to, I don't get into too much, but there was community there, even when they were in conflict before these new things that are going on. But I had that effect on me, bro. And it is like, I always say that, like, the streets said that we were enemies, but God showed us that we were brothers, And so I've been on this, I'm not trying to be like on this, trying to be like somebody that's on, what is it when they get on a soapbox and do all that? But I was so affected by the respect and love that I was taking in, especially not even part of Homeboy Industries, even living like in 18th Street. I lived on 6th and West, like in the middle of the 18th Street hood where the mural is. And they knew where I was from, bro. And they never bothered me. Moreover, let me into their world and let me take pictures, because I kind of knew where they were coming from. And so it's had a big effect on me. And so anyway, that's why I'm kind of on a journey to kind of try to show our people that we have more in common than we have differences, and even our differences we can learn from. So I don't know. Is there any kind of programs in Stockton that are close to Homeboy Industries? And do you know about Homeboy Industries?
I've heard about Homeboy Industries. I'm not too familiar with them. I know about their work, but to get a Homeboy Industry program in Stockton, I'm not really too sure. If you want Homeboy Industry specifically, I would contact that organization and see what type of pathway will be available to expanding into the Stockton area. But if we're just talking about creating a nonprofit organization or even a corporation that works in aiding and assisting people in the community, or some type of or helps with some type of like job placement, entrepreneurial ventures, venture capitalism, something of that sort, then it really comes down to us coming together, educating and uplifting each other to maximize those opportunities, right? And so, like, what that means, right, that me myself, I have aspirations of creating some form of some type of entity, right, whether it be nonprofit or a corporation. The only reason why I go for a corporation over a nonprofit is because once you have a nonprofit, you have everyone in your business. You have all these, you have political opposition that's trying to say, "Oh, you're cheating the people because you bought a steak for a networking dinner." You know what I mean? A bunch of wild, crazy stuff comes out to say, "Oh, you're wasting this and that." So I don't know if I want to deal with all that. But my point is that if you want to get into some type of community-based service, right, then educate yourself, right? Get plugged in with the organizations that are doing that work, that are doing the the personal development, that are doing the outreach with the reentry services, with the victim services, with the drug treatment, with the job placement, with the entrepreneurial development and all that stuff. Connect with your SBA Small Business Association. Connect with Chase Bank. They have their community outreach for system impact to formerly incarcerated people regarding financial education. They also have programs for entrepreneurial development. And I want to pull together something like that to help educate and advance our people in the community, but in a more socio-economic way, right? As far as teach our people how to better manage their finances, how to build their credit, how to start businesses, and how to truly take their lives in their own hands. And so that when we're talking about criminal justice reform and we're talking about policy change, right? We're not saying that that's the end all be all. We're not saying that we need laws in our communities to build our communities and that's it. We're just saying that the laws and the policies that dictate how police, courts, and prison system interact and react to the societal needs in our communities shouldn't be just with a dungeon. The only answer to our societal problems shouldn't just be a dungeon, right? If our people are struggling in poverty, if our people are struggling with negative mentalities or bad habits, it shouldn't be just throw them in a dungeon, right? Because when I think about what type of justice system I want for my son that's growing up, right? If my son were to start messing up in school, if my son were to start getting into trouble, if he were to get arrested for this, that, or the other, right? Do I want a punitive system that's just gonna slap the cuffs on him, give him 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in prison, and hope he doesn't catch life while he's in there because they created fucked up conditions where he has to be in survival mode and just sit out here and hope and pray he comes home? Or do I want a more restorative model that's going to invest billions into the community development programs in our community instead of just building more and more prisons to grow a prison industry, so that when my son is messing up in the future or struggling in school, he can have that mentorship, he can have that tutor program, he can have that violence prevention intervention programs, he can have that job placement, that drug treatment, the entrepreneurial development, right? When we're talking about the issues in our hoods and our communities, we need to talk about how can we organize, educate, advance, and better our people in our communities, and not just throw them in a dungeon across the state, lock them in a cell, and call that justice, because that's not justice. It's an industry that they profit off of.
And they build resentment too, and of course it's colonization all over again. You feel me? So I like this though. He says we have shout out to Esquire JB. He says we have to hold everyone accountable, especially those who are cosplaying patriotism under the guise of racism and white supremacy. I feel that, bro. I appreciate you for that comment. See, I'm trying to say, bro, we're getting deep over here. AL Entertainment says there are so many brown brothers and Raza that not only have big hearts but brilliant minds. Also, so much potential. Si se puede. Heck yeah. False arrest, illegal search for traffic stops, no probable cause is Terry versus Ohio bottom line. Do you know anything about what he's saying?
Not specifically.
Searches for traffic stops, false arrest, illegal. Try again, my boy. Spreading misinformation like crime stats is a felony. Yeah. I actually came back to Santa Rosa from LA, bro, because I found out that my school system was starting to do restorative practices in the school system, and I got kicked out of my school system. So, and then I got clicked into the city. Crime may be increasing in certain areas. However, there are other underlying issues that we do not hear about. The thing what I wanted to also bring up is that sometimes we never bring up capitalism, bro, and that capitalism and predatory capitalism is in crisis, and people understand that democracy and capitalism generally are a contradiction. They can't really work together because capitalism will always pick the profit over the person, kind of thing. So, do you know why we never talk about the economic system we live under? It's kind of like even when I say capitalism, it's almost like a dirty word, So do you know why? Like we never bring, even like when we're at these big conferences. I used to go to all the gang prevention conferences, and I never felt like they were addressing the economic issue directly, that we live under an economic system that isn't just in its inception. And I guess people could argue that, but do you see anything about the actual economic question?
When what I think, right, is that I don't really think there's a malicious reason behind it. I think there's more of, and I hate to use this word because it sounds bad, but I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in the most objective way possible. Is that a lot of people in our space are economically ignorant, right? So they don't really know how to address or speak on that, right? And for a lot of people, that's really not in their scope of thinking, right? And what I mean by that is that when a lot of people get into criminal justice reform, they're focused on policy, right? They're focused on policy, they're focused on laws, they're focused on police procedures, on court procedures, on prisons, on prison policy, and everything related to the system, right? Because we're very well knowledgeable, educated, and versed in that because we grew up in it. We're aware of it, right? But not a lot of us are really too aware of how the economic system truly functions, right? Not a lot of people really know how to set up a business, how to get one running and operational, and the procedures that go behind it, and everything that goes into growing, expanding, scaling a business, and how the different businesses interact with each other within an economic system, and what are the different economic systems, and what are the solutions within this economic systems. Most people are just trying to figure out how to pay their bills. You know what I mean? Let alone how to rewire the economic system of the entire world. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's a big task. But one thing I would say about economics is that, or finances, right? Is that one thing that I think that we have to overcome is the low standard. The low standard we have for success, right? And what I mean for that is that when they come home from jail or prison, or they're just struggling in the community, and they get introduced to case management or with a community-based organization, whether it be through a community-based nonprofit organization or through through probation or parole themselves, the metric and standard for success is so low that we have to do something about it. What I mean by that is that if I come home from jail or prison, I get a minimum wage job, and I can afford to couch surf somewhere, or I could pay rent and buy food, then I'm considered a success, right? Because I don't need food stamps, right? Because I don't need government assistance, I'm considered a success. And then success story, and then we can move on to the next case and the next case and the next case, right? But when I'm talking about with my people, right? When I'm talking and working with my people, I don't want to just have the standard for success to be the bare minimum. I want to ask, okay, well, now that you got a job, whether it be a minimum wage or not, or you have how do we get you a banking account? How do we build your credit score up to from 500 to 700, 730, 800? How do we increase your income? Say you're making $20 an hour. How do we get you up to $30 an hour? So okay, say you're making $20,000 an hour. How do we get up to $50,000 an hour, $100,000 a year? Excuse me, $100,000 a year, $120,000 a year, and that's very much doable. It's very much possible with the trade unions out there, because even the lower paid trade unions, you bring in about $120,000 a year, right? And so then beyond that, how do we get you to start your own business, to become your own boss, to scale up your operations, to not just rent, but to get into a home, to buy a home, to get investment properties, right? To create homeowners, entrepreneurs, family men, not just create generational wealth, but generational success, because that's ultimately how we break these generational cycles in our communities, by becoming not just success stories, but by becoming the source of new trends, of new cycles, right? Because one thing I'm very proud of, right, is that me myself, I grew up in the hood. I grew up in fucked up schools in Stockton Unified School District and juvenile hall and all that stuff, right? One thing that I'm very proud of is that my 14-year-old daughter doesn't even know what a ghetto is. She has to Google it.
Heck yeah, my daughter either. She don't know either. She's not that old, but she don't know either, man. That's beautiful. We got that going for us. Heck yeah. The brother said, I don't know if you know what this means, but in gang cases, Brandy versus Maryland, Brandy issues denial of discovery.
I'm not too familiar with case law when it comes to gang, but one thing I will say is that in our justice reform spaces, I am part of an anti-gang suppression work group, and what we do ultimately is that we come together with formerly incarcerated, system impacted people, attorneys, organizational movement leaders, and universities, and we work on creating and passing legislation to break down the process of unfair gang enhancement rules, gang injunction rules. Ultimately, what we're talking about is getting way of the over sentencing of our people.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what we're talking about. And I hate to use buzzwords like racism, things of that sort, not because I don't believe in it or I don't like really talking about it, but because of the fact that when I was in prison and I was on the yard, everyone was in the same shit. Everyone was in the same toilet bowl. You had the Hispanics here, you had the blacks there, you had the whites here, you had the Asians there, you had the Pacific Islanders over here. You know what I'm saying? But my point is that just like black and brown individuals are struggling in poverty, in the community, in the justice system, and in prisons, our white brothers are out there struggling in the same shit, right? And so whenever I'm in a space of whenever I'm in a space of community, right? I don't like to push away the the white brothers in our circle that come from the same background, that come from the same struggle, that are in and out of jails, that are fighting court cases, that are filling the prison system as well, right? Because where I grew up out east, right across the freeway, we got what's called East Side Okieville, right? So there's a ton of whites that are going through the system. They're struggling in poverty. They're struggling with the justice system as well. So I see it as we're all in it together. And how I see it is that I'm an issues based. How you say? I'm a nonpartisan individual, right? I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I don't care if you identify with the donkey or the elephant, right? If you're red or blue politically when it comes to government politics, right? I don't. What I care about is criminal justice issues and community investment, right? And so anything social issues outside of that only further divide us, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in how do we move together as a system impacted community to transform our justice system and communities to break old cycles and start new, better ones.
I like that, bro. That's why we're trying to get with you. How can we find out where city we live in, where they are spreading the money that's supposed to be going to hoods and parks? I think just at the city council, no? You can find out.
There's the city council and the board of supervisors for your county.
Yeah, and there's always paperwork, following that too. So you just got to get into the mud with that. A lot of our people aren't good with paperwork, and it can really hurt it. It's actually really hurt me in my past.
Yeah, and that's why for us we're like, for example, right? Like I wasn't always good with paperwork, right? But I got plugged in with established criminal justice reform organizations, community organizations that are right. And one thing that I would say was that inspired me the most, right, is that when I came home from prison, and then I started getting more involved with the political organizations and the community organizations, when I would see executive directors of organizations that were formerly incarcerated, when I would see the national directors of criminal justice reform organizations and presidents formerly incarcerated, that was very inspiring. I would see movement leaders, organizational leaders. I would see lawyers, political candidates, all formerly incarcerated people with felony backgrounds that don't let that dictate their life in a negative way, and don't put self-imposed roadblocks in front of them. We already have enough roadblocks in front of us for having felony convictions. We don't need to put mental roadblocks in front of us saying that we don't deserve to run organizations. We don't deserve to become attorneys. We don't deserve to put on a suit and tie and conduct business and brush shoulders with lawyers, attorneys, politicians, and talk about law and politics and actually go into the state capitol and change laws, right? That we are worthy and deserving of those spaces, of those titles, of those professions, of those movements, and not only of being a part of them, but of spearheading and leading them. And that's one of the reasons why I wore a suit to this podcast, right? Is because I put on a suit and tie when I go and meet with lawyers, politicians, and things of that sort. I'm not going to dress down when I come on a podcast addressing my people. I'm going to give them the same respect that I give the other people. You know what I'm saying? Across the freeway in the halls of power, I'm going to give my people in the community that very same respect. And at the same time, I'm going to lead by example and pave the way and show them that they too, regardless of their struggles or background, are worthy of stepping and thriving and leading in professional spaces.
Hell yeah, bro. The reason why I do that is that I did just literally dress down. If you look at my, I was just in a suit today. It was a suit day, as I
I
call them.
seen you. You're shining, brother.
Yeah, bro. I was like, oh, even when I saw you, I was like, I should have kept it on. But I was kicking with my daughter too, So I've already been chilling. I'm about to go to the gym after, actually. So, but I really appreciate that because my father, who we grew up in the hood, bro, and all that. But my dad saw what was going on. He grew up in the hood, but he didn't know that the hood turned into how dangerous it was in the '90s, right? Because I was right in the middle of that. I'm 41, and so he actually got away from all that and got back into law and retired a multimillionaire and helped by the people in labor law violations, sexual harassment, all these kind of things, and civil rights law. He's a civil rights attorney, and he inspired me. You know what I mean? But he always told me, son, why do I have these $2,000 suits on? Because when he started making money, we were like, whoa, he's dressing really nice. And I said, I don't dress up for me. I'm not really like that. I dress up for my clients because my working class clients deserve to, when they're going face to face with the other corporate lawyer, that their lawyer looks just as good as the other lawyer, dressed down, and they deserve that. So because my dad wasn't really, he's humble, but he would dress down, and handsome man, and he would do his thing, and he taught me that, so whenever I go out too, I actually present myself that way. And isn't it a trip how people, even with tattoos or with long hair or whatever, they do really treat you different. At first I would take that like as offensive, but no, when you take yourself more serious, people tend to take you more serious, right?
For sure, it's all in presentation and how you conduct yourself, right? And it's funny that you had mentioned that story, right? About your pops, because I relate to that, because when I go to court as a court advocate, right? I'm not a lawyer or attorney, right? I'm not a defense attorney, I'm not a prosecutor or anything like that, right? But I'm a court advocate for defendants that are going through the court process when I'm in the courthouse, right? So I don't just show up in the in a regular button up and some jeans and say, hey, what's up, brother? I'm here from the community organization and we're gonna help get you through this. No, just like the prosecutor is right there in his $1,000-$2,000 suit, I'm showing up in a $2,000 suit, and we're here to bat for you, and we're to have your back, and I'm gonna represent you professionally, respectably, and also I'm gonna show you that I come from the same struggle and background that you came from, and you can make that change too. You could better yourself too. You could present yourself that too. And not only that, our young life in the community, they need to see that. They need that guidance. They need that mentorship. Because I remember when I went to the juvenile courthouse not too long ago. I was there with one of my clients, and I seen another kid on the bench off to the side try to go into the courthouse to address the judge in some true religion sweater and a ski mask on. And I was like, bro, what are you doing, bro? You're looking guilty. You look like the suspect poacher. Do you have anyone at home that's guiding you? That's, you know what I'm saying? That's educating you in some form? And it's like, nah, like a lot of these kids don't. They need this guidance. They need this. They need this mentorship. They need people to show them a better way, a positive way of not just how to be a man, but just not crash out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And you know what I mean? Like at least at least don't wear the ski mask to court. But that goes to show what we're up against when we're out here striving to organize, educate, inspire, and better our communities, is that we're really starting from the bottom up. And it's not a bad thing, because I remember when I was in Susanville. I was in Susanville State Prison, and I was talking with my bunkie, and I was telling him, I said, you know what? When I parole, I'm not even paroling back to Stockton, because I'm not trying to get pulled back in the bullshit, catch another strike, and then get life for some whole other shit. I'm trying to get out and move on with my life and take full advantage of what society has to give. Because when I served my time, started my sentence, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's a double-edged sword when you're striving to better yourself and prepare yourself for getting out, while at the same time accepting that you may not get out. And that if shit goes bad and doesn't go the way you want it, and you catch a case, right, because shit happens in there, you have to be prepared like a light switch to let go of all the dreams, hopes, and aspirations that you were striving for, because that's just how it goes. Right. And when you come home, that's not just a second chance. A lot of times that's a blessing, because a lot of people don't get that second chance. They don't get that blessing. And I remember telling my bunkie, I said, you know what? If I actually make it home, I don't even want to go back to Stockton. I want to go someplace. I want to go someplace else where it's calmer, chill. I don't know no one. No one knows me. I'm not going to get pulled into no bullshit, no nothing like that. I'm not going to get, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get locked up again. I'm not going to get into no other shit. But he told me, imagine if everyone that bettered themselves decided not to go back to their hometown. Imagine if everyone that had the will and the desire and capability, that was capable of bettering and building and advancing their people, decided to walk away instead of come back. Then how are they going to grow? And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going back.
Yeah.
And then when I came home, I knew I wanted to make a change. But at the same time, I knew that I had to work on bettering myself and educating myself more to how society functions, because I never functioned in society as an adult, right? Because I got locked up when I was 18. I got locked up in high school, basically. And so when I came home at 27, I never really had a job, a house, apartment, a car, insurance, bank accounts, anything like that. So how am I going to go out there and help my people get their life together if I never even lived life out here as an adult? So I had to walk my own road. I had to figure out my own path. You know what I'm saying? As far as getting my job, going to college, getting a long-term relationship with my girl, getting married, having kids, getting into the union trades, finishing that as a journeyman, working on starting my own organizations and things of that sort. And now that I have all this lived experience of not just how to live, but how to thrive and succeed in society as a functioning adult, now I'm coming back with this game and knowledge to help build my young life up. And not just the young life, because adults need it too, because there's 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds that are coming home from prison or just coming out of a rough patch in life that lasted a long time, and they just need that guidance, that inspiration to get on track and just figure out what to do next. Because a lot of us don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a complicated world out there when you're trying to figure out how to fix your credit, not just how to get a job, but how to get a good paying job, how to get a better paying job. What are the actual, you know what I'm saying? What are the high paying careers? And there's individuals that have dreams and aspirations of starting businesses and organizations, but that's a whole process that a lot of us don't know, because we don't come from families that have that experience that can educate us on this is how you establish a 501c3, and this is how you go to seek grants, and this is how you go to set up your operational structure of your organization to make sure that you're in compliance with all the rules and regulations of a 501c3, and make sure that in election season you don't cross over into C4 work, or if you're going to start a for-profit business, this is how you start a LLC, get it off the ground. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot of game that a lot of us don't have, right? And we have to come together. We have to come together. We have to learn together, and we have to grow together, right? Yeah. And that's something that's missing, right? Is that it's easy for us to come together to do negative shit. It needs to be easier to come together to do positive shit.
Yeah, and to be as sexy.
Right.
As a podcaster, how can we support you? And he says to put the puzzle together. So is there anything out there, like just podcasters in general, people that are starting to build platforms, how they can help?
Yeah. Ultimately, the best way that we could help each other doing positive work is to shine a light on the positive work, right? Because a lot of times right, when it comes to the news, when it comes to media of that sort, the general mantra is that if it bleeds, it leads, right? It's all about sensationalism, right? As far as what's gonna have the highest emotional impact, that's gonna drive clicks and views, right? And so what we have to do is figure out how are we gonna help focus our people, how are we gonna help uplift our people by focusing on the positive work, because that's the problem. That's why we're in the situation that we're in with criminal justice reform and this backlash, is because there's all this anecdotal spotlighting that's getting put on negative shit here, negative stuff there, right? But no one sees the positive work that's going on. No one sees the positive work that's going on with the community-based organization. No one's seeing the people that are going through the diversion programs at the court process level and getting connected with jobs, getting connected with careers. They're getting off drugs. They're getting plugged into victim services programs, and that's one of the most unfortunate part about this backlash is that with this law, Prop 36, that they're trying to pass, is that not only is it going to bring back the tough on crime era of the 90s to throw people back in prisons for non-serious offenses that shouldn't even be in prison in the first place, it's going to cut about $1 billion of community investment in these victim services, reentry, drug treatment of that sort, right? They'll say, right, that no, this law does not directly cut community-based services or solutions, right? But what they don't tell you is that in Prop 47, what was written in Prop 47 was passed in 2014 was that by reducing these felonies to misdemeanors, the state is not going to be sending people to state prison for these offenses no more because they're no longer felonies, right? So Prop 47 mandated the state to calculate at the end of the year how much money are you saving in prison costs by not sending people to state prison for these Prop 47 offenses anymore, right? And whatever that amount totals to, you have to reinvest that from prison spending to community investment in these programs, right? And that amounts to about $100 to $150 million a year, right? About $150 million to date has been reallocated from wasteful prison spending to community investment directly because of Prop 47. Right. And that's one of the reasons why they hate it and you'll never hear about it. Right. But if you pass a law that's sending people to prison for Prop 47 offenses, what's happening? The state is no longer saving money. So because the state is no longer saving money for Prop 47 because they amended it to start sending people to prison again for Prop 47 offenses, that means there's no savings to be reallocated into community investment no more. Therefore, community investment will be cut.
And I don't know, it's a scary world we're kind of facing. So I don't know, but at the same time, I just try to stay in the solution, like I was when I got sober, and it kind of keeps me kind of with a perspective, a little bit of a positive kind of outlook, no matter what. Real quick, before I get into, there's a couple more questions, but I wanted to ask you kind of a jump to a little bit of a more fun topic real quick. Not about fun, but I saw some pictures of you interacting with artists, from Northern California, and I really respect them and overall. And I just wanted to know, just generally, what do you think about? Because when I grew up, all we had was 17 Reasons, Darkroom Familia. We had a couple things, and to be honest, besides 17 Reasons, I didn't really like Darkroom Familia that much. It's kind of like a rap thing I wasn't really into. But this new generation, they're really rapping, and they got beats that they really are doing something different in Southern California and Northern California. And it made me like, whoa. So I started interviewing a bunch of kids on the Fool Community. That went off, and then eventually I produced the Fool Community podcast. It didn't work out between us because we act like fools sometimes. But, still though, and another thing I do want to bring up, which is problematic, it could be people could get hate on me for this, but you brought it up earlier too. The music really does affect us, and it affects our minds. And I remember when I was banging, bro, that I used that music to pump myself up to go do things I wasn't ready to do, to be honest. But that music helped me do some vicious things. So my long-winded question is kind of, who are some of the artists that you like, that you listen to, or just like them as people? And how do you deal with the inner contradiction of them kind of glorifying murder music with not that much solution in their music, but it's still really good music and they really are telling a story. The one part I do like is GB and the homeboy from Sacramento. They did a song about trapping, but it's about like a positive one, like trap, and it's about like getting money and bettering themselves. And GB has made a couple songs that are very empowering, actually, about his people and his culture. So I see some potential there. So is there a Northern California artist that you really like, and how do you deal with those kind of contradictions when you listen to the music, if you do?
I support all the homeboy rappers. You know what I'm saying? I love and support all the homeboy rappers. One thing I will say though is that when I came home from prison and I decided to turn a new leaf on my life. Obviously, still in good standings with my people, with my community, right? But I turned a new leaf on my life in terms of living a legal, positive life that's not going to take me back to prison. That'll keep me out here with my family, right? One, I try not to listen to rap music too much, right? I try not to listen to rap music too much because it's really easy for it to pull you back into a whole mentality that will have you acting out on bad habits that typically send us to prison. You know what I'm saying? And so I try not to listen to too much, but I support all the homeboy rappers. I support, you know what I'm saying? I support their passions, their careers, the businesses that they're trying to create for themselves, the brands that they're creating. You know what I'm saying? Like I support anyone and everyone out there trying to get their money and build themselves up, right? And bring their team with them. You know what I mean? Like I'm always gonna have nothing but love and respect for that, right? But addressing what you brought up, right?
Well, before you address that, can I throw one caveat? Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I respect your opinion. I just want to throw one more thing in there.
Yeah.
In Santa Rosa, California, I don't know what's going on, and I really do believe it's the music. There's hella homies, bro. They're like, I see them in the streets now. Like I didn't see them in the streets, and I really do believe that a piece of it is the music. And they're young, bro. I haven't seen young homies in groupings like this in a very long time. So that being said, what do you think about all that?
Let me see.
The music, the contradiction,
right? I'm very mindful of how I speak on these issues,
yeah,
right?
I thank you for bringing it up because it's just I'm struggling with it. That's why.
One thing I personally would like to see, right? And I have this conversation with homeboy rappers, right? I'm not gonna like mention any names, but I have these conversations with homeboy rappers when we link up, right? And one thing that I would like to see more, right, is I would like to see more positive leadership in our community passed down through music, right? Because one thing that one difference, right, that I see is that when we're in prison, when we're behind the walls, we're always encouraging each other to strive to better yourself, to educate yourself, to conduct yourself professionally, respectably, go to take full advantage of the opportunities out there for you. I mean, we're out there working out, busting down, going to school, going to the programs, going to college, graduating. We're working on essay writing, we're working on a bunch of different things, right? I'm not going to get into too many specifics, but we push very hard the betterment and advancement of ourselves and each other physically and mentally while behind the walls. I would love to see that same push out here in the streets and in the community. Why do we have to wait until we're in prison to encourage ourselves and each other to better yourselves, right? To start businesses, to become more knowledgeable about the law, to be more aware of politics, to understand what equal rights and opportunities we have afforded to us and where we need to strive for, right? There's a lot of, like the brother right here said, there's a lot of power in the message of music, right? And I would like, when it comes to homeboy rappers in general, if they're gonna be representing their ideology, I would prefer it to be more accurately represented.
Ooh, I like that. Accurately represented. Ooh, I wish that could just be like on a full community post, but
and again, I don't mean no shade, because I love my brothers, I love the homeboys that are out there in the music industry, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's an industry that everyone's trying to find their way in, right? Everyone's trying to build themselves up and establish their career. But while building and establishing their career and finding their way, finding their voice, and finding their influence, right? Especially when identifying with a specific ideology, I would like to see more positive leadership that's more reflective of the ideology that they're representing.
and that's something that I struggled with too, and I tried to hold my tongue because I know it's not really my space. But like, I'm somebody that, I mean, all my cousins before me, bro, all went to prison. All my cousins before me that were men, all homeboys. I didn't let not one of them. I have a lot of boy cousins under me, and not one of them joined the neighborhood. So I'm the last one from my community, from my family, and I broke that cycle. You know what I mean? And so, and I struggle with those things too. But I'm trying to learn from people like you how to address these things without offending the homies. You know, because I feel like the way I am, I offend them, and when you offend somebody, they're not listening to you no more. You know, and I've learned that I burnt bridges by accident just by being a little too in their face about it. But it's because I kind of grew up in that kind of aggressive, like in your face, you know, like I'm gonna tell you how I really feel, my boy. Like, you know, like you're my homeboy. I'm gonna tell you.
Well, yeah, but with anything, right, you have to be mindful of how your message is going to be perceived, how individuals will react to it, because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal of a message is for it to land, right? And so if you're not mindful of your delivery and how it's going to be perceived, then it's going to miss it. It's going to miss its mark. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be very mindful of that.
I've been missing my mark, bro. It's now I don't know what I'm doing now. I'm just
And then like so I address this question as specific as I can, but I try this. I address I address this issue more directly in person, right? Off camera. You know what I'm saying?
gotcha.
Because whenever we're having internal conversations about with our loved ones, right? Those are discussions that are better held off camera, out of public view. Only because when you have if any disputes or disagreements would arise between you and your loved ones, I would by no means want that to be misinterpreted as any form of contempt or disrespect or what's the word I'm looking for, or can't think of the word, but it's never my intention, right, to try to put down or offend my brothers, right? And so I would hate for that to be misinterpreted or misused or misrepresented on social media because it was taken out of context. You know what I mean? So I'm more comfortable having those conversations in person when you're eye to eye. That way, that those misunderstandings are taken out of the equation.
Oh, it's the worst, bro. It's like I'm still. A lot of people don't know that we're all generally new to this whole internet podcasting. People, you know, so you know, I make one video about something, and literally like about 15 videos are made, and they're all kind of made in the way that they want to make it. You know, like with their influence. You know, about my life and what I'm talking about. So I had to be. I'm learning right now, like in the moment, literally, and that's why I wanted to get you on next, because I wanted to kind of start with you and then kind of stay in your mind frame and kind of stay
Yeah.
connected to doing, so that because I think me and you we're trying to do the same thing, but I'm not landing the way you're landing, so I want to learn from you so that I can, you know, try to land a little better, a little smoother, you know, in terms of I do think delivery is such a big deal, and sometimes we forget how important it is. It's not just the message, but how you say it and how people feel after you leave them, you know. And I'm working on that. So appreciate you just for the guidance, and you don't even know that it's guidance, but you know,
Yeah.
just out there helping us all.
Oh, most definitely. Because it's to essentially to touch back on what you said, me, you, and the fellas out there, ultimately what we're about and what I'm about is for the betterment and advancement of my people, physically, mentally, socioeconomically, politically, and legally. My goal is to uplift, empower, educate, and advance my people, right? And so if I were to rap, I wouldn't create lyrics that go contrary to that.
Mm. Yeah. And that's the thing, it's hard because I see vatos that have such good talent, and then some of the music is deep, but like there's a song Rico Too Smooth has that I can't stop listening to forever, bro. It's called Deeper Than Rap. And it's
Yeah.
like I can't, like, I listen to it. I'm talking about probably 15 times a day, bro. I get weird with songs. And I love it. And I'm just also think like, dang, if he could make this song, he could, and he has me, a 41-year-old man, really working out to it. He could do amazing things. And I guess I just always I bring up Rico a lot because I feel like he has a lot of potential as a biracial man, as a man from Northern California, as a man that excuse me, has kids, has a mother, has a, you know, works his body out, which I really appreciate that he works his body out, because I do think when you're working your body out, it will affect your mind in so many ways, you know, and you just don't want to put bad stuff in your body as much. And so, like,
Yeah, that's the homie. BFD, Rico Too Smooth, GB, all of them, Bully from EPA. You know what I'm saying? Like all these different. There's too many to mention off the top of my head, right? But I got nothing but love and respect for all of them. But especially GB, BFD, and Rico. They're always coming with me to the Capitol. Those are solid, level-headed, positive dudes. I got nothing but love and respect for all of them. I very much admire Rico Too Smooth because he does give him credit, he does very much try to put positivity in his music, to better guide his followers. He's very mindful of that. He has a very good heart, and he tries the best he can, right? And I give him props. I give him credit for that, because because that's something that's not easy to do in the rap industry, that glorifies sensationalism, that glorifies ignorance, that glorifies a bunch of bullshit, right? So when we have homeboys that are making a way for themselves in this industry, but staying true to their root by remembering the positive principles and ideals that we strive for in that career path, that's nothing but commendable.
Heck yeah, shout out to the homies, man. Yeah, no, I want to, sometimes I critique them and this different. I look at myself also like as a journalist, a cultural critic, somebody that is going to critique things, is going to sometimes ask the questions or pose some statements that might offend people, that might rub people the wrong way. But I really do believe that the end goal, it's not malicious though, it's to get a deeper understanding. And if we don't struggle, there's no understanding, and you got to struggle. And sometimes we have to go through these uncomfortable things. But I just want them to know that it's not a personal thing against them. It's that you guys are lights, I'm a light, and we're light. Our lights are kind of flashing on each other, and I see your light, but it's like burning me a little because it's saying things that are kind of like, whoa. And when I saw you with them, I just thought that was such a positive thing that you were bringing them along, and just for their experience, to experience those moments, that because I had these experiences growing up, bro, or when I started to change my life, that like one I traveled once with my stepdad to Europe, and he was my stepdad, and he came into my life and changed my life. And if I wouldn't have traveled, I wouldn't, at a young age when I was active, I would have never saw. He's from Norway, bro. I was an active gang member in the 90s, traveling to Norway, bro, and Dickies and all that. And I went there and I saw a big world, and when I came back, I remember it affected me, like, bro, I can't, there's a big world out there. I got to go see what's up, and so I want to keep doing that, but doing it in a way that you're doing it, like we're keeping the respect and keeping it in a level-headed, way of going about it.
Because it all boils down to professionalism and respect, right? And that's really why the whole the North and South issue got glamorized over the past year or so on social media, because that was typically something that wasn't put on the internet, right? I put it on social media because people from our communities typically hold themselves to a higher standard. So whereas we don't air our business out, right? If we're gonna address prison politics, we're addressing on the yard. If we're addressing hood politics, we're addressing on the block or in traffic, right? It's not something that we're just gonna come on social media and wolf about, right? And then that became more trendy. It became more trendy for it to do it, and there's certain, and I give the homeboy rappers for the amount of restraint that they showed in that, because there was a lot of provocations, you know what I'm saying, from other rappers that didn't have those same standards of keeping hood or prison politics off of the internet, right? And then so
say that though, to address that, we're not trying to say that we're better than the other side or this or that, but they spent a long time not addressing many disses that came their way, and a lot of the disses were not just to the north. They had addresses on their diss. They had names to it, and a lot of the homies. I'm not going to get into the names and all that, so we don't get too messy. But a lot of the homies waited. But then, at a certain time, it's hip hop. I thought there's a part of it that was fun and cool, but once it started to get a little real, like they were really saying things that are kind of like street things that took away from the hip hop thing. I felt like now we're stepping backwards, and hopefully, I don't know. I feel like some people are starting to get like I don't know. I'm not going to get into the conflict I've recently been into, but it kept a dirty, or I have a bad taste in my mouth over it, even though I think I like won the debate, and I got more views, but I still got a dirty taste. I don't feel good about it at all. I feel like I put myself out there. I did what other people are doing, podcasting down south, and I'm gonna keep everything up because I do believe in transparency, but I will try to address things with people, even if they address me publicly. I'm gonna try to address them first privately instead of just reacting. I didn't respond, I reacted, and that's my problem. So I acknowledge that. But shout out to all the homies though, for sure.
But yeah, it's all love and respect, and yeah, man, it's all love and respect. At the end of the day, it comes down to professionalism, respect, and if there's really, and if there's, and And if there's really an issue, right? If there's really a personal issue, then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Address it
Yeah.
in person, address it offline. You know what I'm saying? There's no need to air out dirty laundry for everyone else to see.
Yeah. How I look at it also is I feel like all I ask for respectfully, and I don't even want this, but respectfully, at least give me the head up fade. Don't, ain't nothing weird. We don't need to get that far. I'm saying if it had to go that far, which I hope we would never have to go that far. I hope that discuss. But I'm just saying, at least give me a fair one.
Well, I wouldn't even bring that up. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't even bring that up because then
you're kind of challenging them without.
It's provocative. You know what I'm saying? It's provocative, and then you put someone else in a situation to where how are you going to respond to that? How are you going to react? You know what I mean? And then it becomes a showmanship for social media, and that's ultimately what we're not about, what we shouldn't be about, right? Because one thing that I always carry with me in the social media space, right? Because I'm new to social media. I don't really do the social media shit. I just wanted to highlight the positive work that I'm doing to help educate and empower our people so that we can make real change in our community, right? But one thing that I always take with me is the upbringing that I have in prison, to where I don't do self-soldiering. I don't do disrespect. If there's an issue serious enough worth handling, then we'll address it in person, and we'll go from there in person, and we'll carry it out as such, right? But even enemies can show each other respect in a time of war.
Absolutely, bro. So we've been going for a cool little minute, about hour and a half. Kind of let people know, one is it's going to be in the description of where people can find you, but also kind of what are some of the upcoming things that are in your world right now that they can look forward to once they get in to your page. And also check out his what is it, like a group text, or what do you call that?
Yeah, I have a group chat on Instagram called the California Advocacy Network for formerly incarcerated, system impacted people and allies, right? Ultimately for criminal justice reform, public safety, and community investment. And so that's ultimately filled with formerly incarcerated deputy directors, executive directors, movement leaders, political candidates for Senate Assembly, movement leaders. Hey, how's it going? Come here. This right here.
And you're the admin. Hey, what's up, guys?
What it's all about. The next generation, right? And then, you know what? This actually brings me into another big point of mine, right? That when we talk about leading, here we go. No worries. Hand me back to my wife. When it comes to guiding, right? When it comes to giving people advice, right? To guiding and leading our loved ones, right? My litmus test for solid advice, for solid guidance, is that it's not solid if I wouldn't give it to my own son.
Ooh, yep.
You know what I'm saying? I don't give any. I do my best not to give anyone advice that I wouldn't give my own son. You know what I'm saying? And that's ultimately what this is all about. As far as how do we create a better generation for our next generation, for our own sons and daughters, for our nieces, for our nephews, for the little kids that we see that we see already growing up in the struggle on the side of the street, in the supermarkets, you know what I'm saying, and in the schoolyards. How do we create a better community, a better system to help guide, empower, and uplift them, and not just funnel them into a state prison industry that spends $14.5 billion every year just to lock up generation after generation. Without, got my son over here trying to jump back in the camera. But yeah, but that's what it's all about. It's all about the kids. It's all about the next generation. It's all about our brothers that are still struggling. They're still trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? That we can't just because we made our way up the ladder doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to reach down and pull our brothers up with us. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, when it comes to doing better for yourself, right? When it comes to leading a legal and positive life, when it comes to doing bigger and better things, right, legally, then you don't have to turn your back on your people to strive for a better life. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to divide your community as far as demonize people that are still living an illegal lifestyle or still struggling on how to put it together, because that's ultimately what law enforcement wants to do. They want to divide our communities, pit one side against the other, and then have us shame each other, go against each other, and that's not what I'm about. That's how come when, for example, I took the homeboy rappers up me to Sacramento for policy advocacy to get involved in to get involved in law and politics. I had a couple people message me, but it's a bad look. Why you bringing people with you that have negative lyrics, this and that? I said because like I don't do it for y'all. I don't do it to impress the lawmakers, to impress the politicians. I do it to inspire the people that follow them, and to educate and to educate and empower my loved ones, our community. And so that when the people that follow us, that look up to us, when they see us out here doing big shit, positive shit, legitimate shit, right? They can be like, okay, that's our space too. We're about that too. You know what I'm saying? We're about striving for equality, under the law. We're about changing laws. We're about establishing businesses. We're about having high-paying careers. We're about buying houses, investment properties, taking care of our families, breaking the cycle of crime and poverty and incarceration in our communities and in our families. That's what we're about, because we're about the betterment and advancement of our people, of our communities, and of uplifting, inspiring, encouraging, and leading each other through example. That's who we are. That's what we're about, and that's what I push.
Hell yeah, bro! I appreciate that. I was going to ask you, and then you can be as honest as you want. But I know we're just starting to kind of get to know each other. But do you have any advice for me?
You're shining, brother. You're shining, man. The only advice that I would just have is that I don't know. It kind of put me on the spot with that question. I didn't really think about it.
I know.
But just thinking of what I know so far, what we've talked about is just,
and I'm kind of sure that I'm struggling.
Do your best. Do your best to keep it professional and respectful on camera. You know what I mean? And yeah, I know we're all human. We have our triggers, right? And we have our emotional reactions to certain things. But whenever we feel that we're not going to be able to respond or react objectively and professionally, sometimes we just got to take a step back, breathe, turn off the camera for a little bit. And if it's that serious to have an emotional reaction to, you know what I'm saying? Take a day or two to unwind, think things through, and reach out to the person directly. Like, hey, check it out, brother, man. I just want to address this issue. I felt like there may have been a misunderstanding. I would like to just, you know what I mean? Let's just get eye to eye, squash it. Maybe we can get a drink, grab a coffee or something, and just connect and see where we're coming from, right? Because the whole back and forth on social media for sensationalism, views, clicks, that's not gangster. That's not professionalism. That's internet shit. That's trolling. That's social media influencer shit. You know what I'm saying? We hold ourselves to a higher standard than that.
Yeah, I struggle with being hella petty, you know.
But like I said, man, I mean, like I said, it's natural, it's normal for us to have those inclinations, right? Those human responses.
I got gray hair now. I shouldn't be so petty at this age, you know. But I guess
sometimes you just gotta breathe. You know what I'm saying? Look at the bigger picture. You know what I mean? And especially when it comes down to internal confrontation, you know what I mean? That's something that's handled. That's something that should be addressed off camera. You know what I mean? We never want to make a mockery of ourselves for the world to see.
Talking all this stuff about the buffooning of our culture, of the clowning of our culture, the food community, all this food's gone wild stuff, and then I'm over here acting a fool the same way, you know? It's like, come on, bro. Even like when I
gotta lead by example. We gotta lead by example and pave the way. Even if we have negative examples before us with how it was done before, how it may be currently done by other individuals, it's on us to lead by example and not just show ourselves, but show each other and show the people that are watching us. This is how we conduct our business.
Yeah, bro. I feel like I let my people down a little, you know, and just publicly wanting to acknowledge it. I don't necessarily feel like I'm ready for an apology, because I feel like when I do apologies, I really have to feel it. But I do think I made a mistake, and I'm going to try to do better. That's all I could say for the last week or two of kind of.
And that's real. That's real. That takes that takes strength to admit that. You know what I mean? And that's real man shit.
Thank you. And some of the people that I was interacting with kind of negatively, one of their suggestions was kind of to go to Sacramento or to deal with. And what's funny is, even though we were in conflict, because I respected them before the conflict, I took some of their suggestions. And so the people that are watching that are in conflict with me, one of your suggestions was to reach out or interview or talk to somebody that's doing something positive. And literally the next content I do is reaching out to you, bro. And you know. So I just wanted to show that I am a space that is analytical, that's intellectual, but I'm also going to make mistakes. I still got a little bit of tomfoolery in me, and you know, help me, give me some time to grow, everybody, and I'm going to keep trying to interact with gentlemen and professionals like this brother right here, so that I can do better, you know, in this space too, in our community, in our culture, in our side, but for everybody too, because the more I do better for me and for you, the better I do for my daughter, the better I do for the homies, the better I do for the rappers that I kind of I feel like they could really do a lot, because I'm really good at kind of catching leaders. And I feel like as problematic as these rappers are, they're leaders in their community, and we can influence them if we do it in the right way, where I feel like you're doing it in the right way, and I kind of fell off, and now I'm trying to get back on the, you know, the right way. So I just thank you for interacting, bro, and not giving up on me.
All good. People make mistakes, people make miscalculations, but that's also part of our culture, right? To build to build our people up, to educate our people, to uplift, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes there's corrections that need to be made. Everyone makes mistakes, and everyone needs some form of correction. Everyone needs to be enlightened in some way or another as far as how to better handle the situation. And that's just part of growth. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's important for us to have this for us to have the social circle of strong, how you say it, of strong, honorable men that can check each other respectfully when needed, but off camera, because we're unfortunately we're in a day and age where grown man shit is clowned by clowns.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not, and that's by no, and I by no means address that to anyone else that we may be referring to. I'm just talking about the social media sphere in general, right? All love and respect. Well, I'm talking about people in the chat. You know what I'm saying? The random people in the chat when they're shooting off about a bunch of random shit, about a bunch of goofball shit. They're talking about a bunch of stuff that they don't know nothing about. They're talking about a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with them, or they just want to clown, mock, and make fun of people in some weird, twisted way. We just got to get away from that. And when it's time to conduct and handle grown man shit amongst our brothers, let's just step back, take a breath, go off camera, and address each other in person, off camera, as brothers, eye to eye.
For sure, bro. Thank you. Well, again, bro, I really appreciate you. You know, I'm in the group. I'm gonna keep watching if there's anything I can do. And then podcasting is a reoccurring thing. We already got a nice little flyer now, so anytime we want to come back, you know, you have anything to announce, we can do quick ones too, 20-minute, 30-minute, you know, little whatever, or you have some kind of inspiring story. Anything I can do. I'm just starting to build, but it's starting to kind of build a little bit. I just passed 2 million views. You feel me? So it's starting to do something. So you know, whatever I want to do, I just want to use this platform to help my people and maybe talk about the uncomfortable conversations, like about the contradiction of music, like that. But maybe do it in the way that we're doing, instead of just being like, you know, pointing the finger or whatever.
If I was tasked with doing that, right, I wouldn't necessarily focus on contradictions, but more so highlight the positive.
Yeah.
You know, as far as give positive credit to positive work, right? As far as because that's something I try not to do. I try not to speak on negative stuff, because when you speak on something negative or you give some type of criticism, even if it's constructive, it could be perceived as disrespectful, offensive, or whatever, right? So I try to keep it as positive as possible, and the best way just to avoid any misunderstanding or positive bullshit online is just to focus on the positive, keep it positive. You know what I mean? And to shine a light on positive work that's being done. And one thing that I would really one person I would really love to shout out in the chat is Israel with CAYCJ that just dropped that chat. That's another solid brother, solid individual that did his time in prison, came home, and is doing very good work in the community, leading the youth justice space. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, that we have solid individuals, right, from our background. We got solid homeboys that come home from prison in good standings, right, with our community, and push forward doing solid work to build, empower, educate our people to to advance our communities, right? We got the brother Israel right there leading the youth justice space within his network. Then you have me out here that I'm leading. I'm the Northern California Organizer for Time Done, one of the leading criminal justice reform organizations in the country. You have these different criminal justice reform organizations that are being led through executive director positions by formerly incarcerated people. You know what I mean? You have homeboys that are out here that are what's the word I'm looking for? That are CEOs of their own businesses, their own corporations, giving back in ways that they can. That we're family men, we're business owners, we're homeowners, we're movement leaders. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not just just because you come from a struggling background, jail, prison, poverty, whatever, right? Or some type of generational hardships, right? In your family, in your community, doesn't mean that you can't move beyond that and take up a strong, positive leadership role within your community and still be a strong, respected figure within your community, because we're doing it. And anyone that thinks that you're any less of a homeboy because you're out here pushing a solid line, you're out here pushing a hard line on bettering your community, they have no idea what they're talking about, because that's what we're about.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, I was catching flag for like interviewing people from Southern California, but like, bro, I went to USC. I lived half my life in Southern California, and I never even talked about politics. I just talked about the music. Like, I would get flack from not my homies, but like from the rapper online people or like these blogs and I'm like, man, dude, you guys don't even know what's going on. I was personally affected by Southern California, and I'm addressing it, I think, in a positive way. And then that's where I started to get into conflict with people and I spent like 6 months, getting views, but going back and forth. And in the end of it, I kind of feel embarrassed about it all. So,
but yeah, man, it's all love and respect. It's always love and respect.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? Like whenever we're in criminal justice reform spaces, right? Whenever we're in professional spaces, we work alongside with Southsiders from Southern California, because we respect the space that we're in and recognize that we're not there to fight each other. We're there to fight for each other with policy changes, change laws, with change that's going to benefit all of our people from across the state. And going there with the short-sighted mentality to set trip, cause problems or violent confrontations in that shared space is only gonna hurt us.
Yeah.
It's only gonna hurt our movement. It's only gonna hurt our progress. And a lot of times when you put, from regardless of what side of the map they're from, when you put two gangsters in the same room, real recognize real and respect trumps all. So the only time keep it all the way one, the only time I really see flat out blatant disrespect is in the chat.
Yeah.
From people that are most likely not really gangsters in the first place. But when we're on the yard, we know we know who we are. We know where we're from. We got nothing to prove. It's nothing but respect. When we're in the same, when we come together in the same space, pushing criminal justice reform to change laws within the political system, is nothing but respect. And next month, I'm gonna be in Compton, pushing this line. So you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter where you're from. Whenever real recognize real, and whenever you're in a real space surrounded by real individuals, it's nothing but love, professionalism, and respect.
Heck yeah, bro. And I wanted to show my respect by putting my glasses up for a second, just because sometimes people think that I'm like trying to be cool, but I got a big ass light on me. And so if I do this, I'm going to eventually be like this talking to you. But I always do this thing, like I say it in my chats, it's an eye check, but yeah, just to give you that respect too at the end. But again, man, I appreciate your guidance. And again, everybody, I'm trying to do better. This is a kind of a response to this last week of getting all these views, but not really feeling good about it, and wanting to go in a different, kind of in a different lane, a different route. And I try to make my decisions really quick and move real quick when I know it's right. And so thanks again for spending almost 2 hours with me, bro. I'm going to cut this up. I'm going to put them in TikToks and all this stuff so that we can get now a whole new kind of wave of my content that will be benefiting all of our people, instead of kind of getting our people into these little details of drama and emotional responses that don't get anybody, even if it gives us a little bit of views. Overall, it doesn't over time, it doesn't look good. It looks even worse. So when I make a mistake, I try to come back with the uppercut of something positive. So again, I appreciate you, bro. Everybody go check out his link will be in the description, and I'm about to go crazy on the shorts and all that, and it'll go all back to him. So check out my boy Is it Ben.Amador.Official?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep.
On
Yep.
Instagram, Ben.Amador_Official.
Exactly. And then let them know if there's anything else that they need to reach you, emails or whatever, or if IG's okay or whatever.
Yeah, IG is my primary mode of communication. My email is timedonestockton@gmail.com. And I guess the final message that I would be remiss if I didn't leave here with is that in November, there's going to be Prop 36 on the ballot. That's something that we are strongly opposed and that we are voting against. So no on Prop 36, because Prop 36 is attempting to repack prisons with non-serious offenses and put $26 billion back into the prison industry on top of the annual $14.5 billion annual budget that CDCR is already getting. It's already, and it's also going to cut about $1 billion over the next 10 years in community investment. They're going to try to make it sound like Prop 36 is the answer to this false crime wave, which I already explained is bullshit, of a misinformation campaign, and no on Prop 36, because it's not the answer. We need to invest in communities, not more prisons.
No on Prop 36, everybody. And we didn't even get into this, but real quick, there's a big thing that people still think that you can't vote if you're a felon. Is it? I heard that it's just if you're on felony probation. If you could just give us a quick thing on if you can vote if you're a felon in California.
You can most definitely vote. You can most definitely vote if you have a felony conviction. You can even vote if you're on probation, parole. You can even vote if you are currently incarcerated in the county jail. The only people that cannot vote in California right now are people currently incarcerated in state or federal prison. But if you are in the county jail, on probation, on parole, and most definitely with a felony record, you can most definitely vote. And it is very important, critical, and vital for us to vote, because we're going to be voting on laws that directly impact our lives and our communities. And that is a right that was hard fought and won for us to restore the right of people with felony records and convictions to be able to vote. Because you remember in the 90s, when they passed this tough on crime era, every election cycle, tough on crime was the safest bet. Why? Because system impacted people in our community that are directly impacted by these laws didn't have the voice. They didn't have a way to say, no, this isn't the right solution for our families, for our neighbors, for our communities, for us. We want investments in our community, not in more and more prisons. And so that decision was ultimately made for us by people that weren't really in our community, representative of the issue that works to address. But now that we have our voting rights restored, there's over 8 million California voters with conviction records, right? And so we now have the power to stand up, come together, and speak out against these legislators that think it's okay to pass these pro-prison mass incarceration laws instead of investing in our communities. If you want real power, then we need to organize, come together, and let these legislators know that we know that we can vote them out of office if they don't represent real solutions for our communities and they just want to appease a prison industry expansion agenda, right? So please vote if you have a felony record, a conviction, if your system impacted, vote, because the laws that are passed in the public safety space directly impacts you, your family, your loved ones, your neighbors, your community. And what we need is more investment in community, not prisons.
Facts. You heard it here first, Treason. That's a big deal because a lot of people actually thought that you couldn't vote while you're on probation. So now that we know that, that's a big deal coming up. So please, everybody, Prop 17 and no on 36, and check out my boy.
Prop 17 restored the right to vote for people on probation, parole, and in county jail, I believe. But yeah, no on Prop 36. And vote if you have a record, because you can vote, and it's very important.
Friedman guest, this vato is solid. Yes, he's solid, and there'll be nothing but solid individuals coming up on the Pocho Live podcast coming forward. So please, everybody, if you can, I know it's annoying, you just pop off, but if you can go down there and like it and even write a comment, say something positive. You know, let's try
Oh, yeah,
to.
I got you. Anyone that got any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them in the chat. I got no problem interacting with everyone in there. I'll answer your questions to the best of my ability. You got any questions about policy change, advocacy, state budget, law, anything of that sort? If I'm capable of answering it, I will. If I don't know the answer, I'll do my best to find it. But yeah, drop all your questions, comments, concerns in the chat, and we'll be in there.
Absolutely. If we didn't get to it, he'll get to it in the comments, and we'll kind of build a positive community on there. So again, bro, thank you so much. Have a beautiful, blessed night with your family, and let me know how I can help, bro. And any guidance, anytime, I always take it, because I'm just trying to do my best. And again, just thank you for interacting with me, bro. Appreciate you, bro.
It's all love, brother. Thank you for having me.
Everybody have a good night. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and support the real. Have a good night, everybody. All right, brother. Have a good night. Peace.
Bam.
Ooh.